But we begin tonight with the question of trust. Donald Trump's White House is telling us to trust them and to not look at all the dumpster fires that they set when they unleash the made-up Department of Government Efficiency on nearly every facet of the federal government with blowtorches in hand. During co-president Elon Musk's Oval Office press conference last week, he said the trust will be warranted due to their transparency.
Transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on.
Yes, and asserting trust. Well, for the last week, we were promised the receipts for all the rampant waste, fraud, and abuse they claim to have uncovered. The DOGE website said it was coming no later than Valentine's Day. It didn't. They said it would come over the weekend. It didn't. And now they finally started putting out something on their website. It makes you wonder why it took so long. How self-selective were they about what made the list? And more importantly, why are we supposed to trust that what they're putting out there is even accurate? Who's the outside entity that is verifying the information? Is there anybody auditing it? What stops them from just making up numbers as to what money they've supposedly saved? And let's not forget that their website has such poor security, it was hacked last week. If we want to talk trust and transparency, when are we going to hear more about DOGE looking into the multi-billion-dollar government contracts for Musk's companies? How about the contract that Musk has to send the first woman and person of color to the moon? That seems very DEI. What about the fact that Musk is already getting things wrong? In his justification to go after Social Security, Musk claimed, without any real evidence, that there were millions of people over the age of 100 receiving Social Security benefits. That was very quickly debunked, with experts pointing to a simple quirk of the decades-old coding language used by the agency. And then there was the absurd claim that $50 million was spent on sending condoms to Gaza. That was also debunked. Musk's response to that one was, frankly, not reassuring at all.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing is that the idea of the government being transparent about how they spend our tax dollars is actually not a bad one. Lots of Americans would love more info on that. But we're somehow supposed to just trust this foreign-born technocrat because he's a billionaire, even though he knows literally nothing about these government agencies? Adding to this lack of trust and transparency is the fact that while Donald Trump announced back in November that Musk was going to lead DOGE and has repeated that numerous times since, a new DOJ court filing claims that Musk is not actually running DOGE, but rather is a senior advisor to the president. So the man who has a meme coin by the same name, whose own employees make up the staff of DOGE, is not actually running it? Does that mean the guy known as Big Balls or the one who posted normalized Indian hate, that they're running the show? Are we supposed to believe this teenage and 20-something coder gang who know nothing about these agencies and didn't understand the coding at the Social Security Agency are who we're supposed to trust to audit their own work? The people whose actual job, by the way, it is to make sure that our tax money is being well spent, the inspector generals, they've been fired by DOGE. And we're further seeing the firings and resignations of the very career officials who would be keeping these agencies afloat and keeping us all safe, like the head of the Food and Drug Administration, the ones who make sure our food and drugs are safe. The Federal Aviation Administration. How do you feel about flying these days, fellas? And the acting commissioner at the Social Security Administration. But the White House expects us to just trust them and whoever is overseeing DOGE? Joining me now is Doug Jones, former Democratic senator and former U.S. attorney from Alabama, and Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University and host of the podcast, A Word with Jason Johnson. I'm going to come to you in a moment, Senator, but I want to come to you first, Jason, because the reality is, and you and I have chatted about this, it's easy to demonize the government because most people don't know what government agencies do, and they have a vague sense that when we pay our taxes, the government is wasting the money. So if you say, well, all this money went to foreign aid, people say, okay, good, cut that, because they really don't know what it is. But they seem to be at this sort of DOGE, whatever it is, taking advantage of that by saying, we found all this waste, fraud, and abuse. And they're not proving it. They're just putting out a list of things they claim they're cutting.
Well, yeah, they have no proof because they never knew any of this stuff, right? I mean, the thing is, you have Elon Musk, who is running this organization, right? Let's not pretend that he's not running it. This whole sort of thing they're doing, this shaggy defense of it wasn't me, I'm not really running it, that doesn't really apply. He doesn't understand government. He has literally been the greatest welfare recipient from most governments for the last 5 to 10 years of his career. And so all he knows is that government pays him. He doesn't know what government actually does for regular people. So that has been a problem from the very beginning. It's one of the reasons people have been able to resist him. And it's one of the reasons that I think Democrats in general should be criticizing this much more aggressively, because the person who's actually running it doesn't even understand the government agencies that he's supposedly shaking up.
Right. And, you know, Senator Jones, let me just go through some of the stuff. So the top Social Security officials stepped down after disagreements with DOGE over sensitive data. We're in the middle of tax season. The leader of the FDA food division is gone. I think we kind of need him. The Trump administration, they ousted more than 400 Department of Homeland Security employees in a workforce purge. I thought we needed Homeland Security, hundreds of FAA employees. That makes me feel very nervous to fly. Health agencies lose staff members in key areas. Then they try to hire people back. They get rid of people, and then they're running and scrambling to try to bring people back on because they really actually didn't need to get rid of them. And so now they're like, oh, hold on, USDA people who are trying to keep us from dying from our food. Can you please come back? And nuclear people, too? Like, they don't even understand who they're firing. Doug Jones.
No, it's Joy, it's a level of incompetence that we've never seen before in government. When Donald Trump first came in 2017, he at least had people around him that, as Jason said, understood government, understood the workings of government and what people in civil service do. These guys don't. They don't have a clue, and they think that just by cutting individuals, they're somehow cutting waste and abuse, and they're not. They're cutting out programs. They're cutting out not just the livelihoods of those individuals, but they're cutting out so many programs that are vital to so many Americans across this country, whether it is NIH grants, whether it's defense contract, you name it. It is really, truly an incompetent level of government. And to say that Elon Musk is not running the United States right now is really a fallacy. I mean, Donald Trump is just basically a yes man right now for everything that Elon Musk is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to come back to that because Judge Chutkan, who will be familiar to y'all from her cases involving Donald Trump, has ruled. Let me stay with you for a minute, Doug Jones. I read through her order denying the request for plaintiff's relief to a restraining order to make them stop. Some of the stuff that she said in here I thought was odd. You know, defendants have allegedly used this unfettered access and authority to terminate personnel, place entire agencies on temporary leave, transfer data to outside servers. But she somehow said because the things could happen but haven't happened yet, no relief, that essentially these states don't have a case. I don't understand it. Do you?
Yeah, you know, Joy, look, the fact of the matter is that it appears that Judge Chutkan is actually following the law and the rules set. She said that these AGs didn't have standing yet. That's not to say that they won't have standing. This may not be just right just yet by these cuts. And the attorney generals may not be the ones to bring this case. Look, there's a lot of cases that are going to be filed out there. I think standing is always a problem. But I look, I'm a big fan of Judge Chutkan for a lot of reasons.
Same.
And if she sees some issues, then you know that she's also not just answering the questions that is before us. She's also signaling to others that this is the way that you can get this done and abide by the rule of law, the thing that the Trump administration doesn't really care about, but do it appropriately. That's what she's signaling. Watch for these things to be amended or refiled by different parties.
This is why we love Doug Jones. You see how look how you just talked me down. Look how you just did that so calmly. but the point, I guess the thing that is frightening about this, and I'll come to you on this, Jason, is because it is asymmetric warfare. Right. One side believes in the rule of law, as Judge Chutkan clearly does. The other side does not. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to play Jesse Waters on tonight. Let me play him because he made an admission that I think is actually kind of stunning about what we know is going to happen with this DOGE website and all the self-selected stuff that's on there. Here's Jesse Waters explaining how this is going down.
We are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it.
So basically everything that's on that website, which they've selected, they've edited, we don't know any of it is verified, they're going to say, look, we saved $20 million here. And then, as Jesse Waters said, Rogan will repeat it, Fox will repeat it, and they put it through the information cycle. You know what's not going to be on there? How much did we spend to send Donald Trump to the Super Bowl or to the Indy 500? That ain't gonna be on there.
They're also not going to have how much Musk gets in contracts. They're also not going to have all of Musk's bids, that every single inefficient thing he finds, he's just going to offer his own company as a private contractor to fix the same issues like what they're doing with the FAA. But here's the thing, Joy, and we always have this sort of conversation about information warfare. We're in such silos now. I don't even know if what Jesse Waters admitted to is as effective as he thinks it is. First off, who's watching Jesse Waters, right? Real talk. I mean, he has certain numbers, but no one's accidentally stumbling onto him. No one's accidentally stumbling onto Joe Rogan. I think a lot of this is being amplified in the silos that people are in. Right. The real value right now, the opportunity for resistance, is the large number of people who've tuned out. The large number of people who are upset, who are waiting to have someone break through the nonsense and tell them, by the way, your grandma is not going to get that free meal anymore in North Dakota because they pulled back in funding. By the way, your daughter is not going to be able to go to school this fall because they pulled back the funding. By the way, who here feels safe flying like you and I are talking about? That's the opportunity to break through, because those are real things people are feeling, regardless of what podcasts are listening
And that is an excellent point, because, there are existing conservative audiences, Doug Jones, that already are going to just get the feedback loop of, look, they're cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. They're going to show up in the trolling, of liberals. They're going to show up in your comment sections. But no new people get added, because in local news, they're going to hear about the farmer that was doing U.S. aid based on grants, was sending money to, someplace in, Bulgaria. But they don't have that anymore. The universities that are losing research funding because that research funding happened to come from U.S. aid, et cetera. This is going to hurt a lot of people, including in red states. And they're going to find out about it not through Jesse Waters.
No, that's absolutely right. But I'm so glad you played that clip from Jesse Waters, because it tells you part of the problem that I think Democrats have had, and that is we've not kept up with the technology to get messages out, the good things that we're doing. We're getting defined by all of those voices on the right, and we're not talking about this. The one thing I disagree with Jesse about is that we're not using 1990 technology. Hell, we're using 1890 technology, and we're getting nowhere. Jason was just nailed it. We have got to be able to go to places where people are. People are not tuning into news anymore. They're getting information and they're getting entertainment, and we're not going there. And until Democrats, we can talk about messaging all we want to, but until we start reaching people who are really have tuned out to politics, don't care about politics, are getting information in different sources in different places, it's not going to matter, because we are getting defined in ways that make the Democratic brand somewhat toxic.
Jason?
We had 2 weeks of conversation because someone got so frustrated about Medicare that they committed a crime. Right? That's what breaks through. It may be sad. It may be upsetting. Yes, Luigi. That's what ends up breaking through. Who's still breaking through. Who's still breaking through. I'm not saying violence. Obviously, no one encourages violence, but you can break through with unique action. You can, as a resistance, break through and say, we're going to do a thing that nobody expects. We're going to show up at a building that nobody expects us in. We're going to push our way into this building. We're going to stand here with 27 different healthcare workers who are helping veterans, and we're going to stand here all day until the local news sees me, until the local blogger sees me. There are ways to break through. You have to stop using the same silos.
There's a whole genre on TikTok right now of the ways that people are protesting at Tesla, including walking around with cardboard signs of Elon Musk giving his heart, is what he said he was doing. And the Tesla dealers are horrified and are like, you have to take that out of here, because that's not what we want.
And Joy, and by the way, it's just not protesting. Protests are great, but one of the things that I think Congress ought to be doing, we're in the minority in both the House and the Senate, so you're not going to get sanctioned to go out into the country to do congressional hearings. But doggone it, they can have mock hearings. The DCCC and the DSCC can go into these local towns, go into red communities, and talk about how these cuts are going to affect those communities. Make a record. The local media, as Jason said, will cover that, and not town halls, because that's
field
just
hearings. They call those field hearings. They used to do them during the civil rights movement. This is how you know Doug Jones was a civil rights lawyer, because they used to do them during Jim Crow. You do a field hearing. Listen to that, Congress. Go in your communities, go in those red communities, and let these people talk, because they are hopping mad. They're just not getting on TV. Former Senator Doug Jones, who talks me down when I'm, feeling blue, and Jason Johnson, who, sometimes makes me feel bluer.
Sometimes it makes
but he does comic stuff with me. We talk comic stuff, and that helps me feel better. Thank you both very much.